tiba, betul, tiba. Okay, so last class, which is yesterday pula, the last week's Monday, we actually stopped at, we are currently in chapter 9. We are currently in chapter 9 and I guess we can consider we just entered because we haven't entered the grammar part. We've covered the dialogue part. We also covered the tango part, which is vocabulary. And right now we are about to enter the grammar part. So, and also for those who are want to see the previous notes, if I'm not mistaken, I've posted before here. Did I? Don't worry, after class I will repost the all of the PDF of the written notes, as well as, if I'm not mistaken, the not written notes yet, which means there's no written anything like this one. So I'll post that after class for those who are interested. Wait, yet again, there's also the Genki textbook link, so no worries. There's that. So I guess we'll enter for the grammar part. Okay, so the first one is past tense short forms. So in chapter 8, we have already actually learned the short forms or the dictionary form. So this one, the written note here, is actually from chapter 8. Chapter 8, the first grammar. So the grammar that we'll be learning today is kind of like a continuation from there. So previously, it's just basically short form or dictionary form, where, like, for example, the word tabemas. So this one is the polite form, polite and formal form, where you use it between like someone you don't really know, a stranger, or someone who is, maybe an older person than you are, or someone with higher status than you are. So you use the mas form, is what we call the mas form, tabemas, which is to eat. However, when you want to change it into a short form or a dictionary form, it will become taberu. This one. The mas will disappear and it will become taberu, depending on which group verb it falls into. So this one we have already covered. So for those who may not really know for this short form, don't worry, because in the beginner's class, we will cover this again. Or if you want to have a quick revision, as usual, you can just check the YouTube channel, the Nihon Culture channel. So this one I will not be teaching today, but instead I'll be continuing the next grammar, which is past tense. So this one is basically the short form, the same as above, except it's in the past tense. So, for example, like to buy, then it'll become bought, So, ride, rode, those kind of past tense. So, for this one, it's basically, there's a formula actually to remember how to conjugate the verbs to past tense, but also in a short form. So, as I mentioned, as I mentioned, in Japanese verb, there are 3 groups. I always mention this. So the first one we have is what you call ichidan. Wait, godan first. We go for godan first. First, we have godan, which mean 5 levels. So the reason why it's called godan is because the way, depending on the context that you want to conjugate it, it changes every time. For example, let me just show you a quick example just to refresh, to do a bit of a revision. Where was it? Mana? Masya. This one. So for example, like the word, this one is kiku. The word kiku, which is in the what you call the mas form, is kikimasu. Kikimasu. So this one means to listen, and the dictionary form or the short form is kiku. So the reason why it's called 5 level because depending on the context that you want to change it to, you have to conjugate the verb. And for example, from the kiku, this one is actually a u vowel. But when you want to change it into a mas form, like this one, you have to change it to the e vowel. And of course, other context too, you have to change the basically the alphabet K to a different vowel. So this one is ku, and this will become ki here. This one will become ka. This one will become k, and this one will become ko. So if you notice, this one, the vowel will change. That's why it is called the the 5 level, the go down word, the 5 level, because they have 5 different ways to conjugate it too. So that is first the go down. And then the second, we have ichidan, which means 1 level. So for example, like tabemas, the word tabemas, which is to eat. Tabemas. Tabemas, to eat. So this one is a mas form, tabemas. But if you change it into a dictionary form or a short form, it'll become taberu, which is eat basically, dictionary form. So if you notice, the be here does not change the vowel. The vowel does not change. It will still be the vowel A, except that you just change at the back, whether you change it from mas to ru, to reru, to you, to nai. So only the back of it. So the front part does not change. That's why it's called ichidan, because the vowel do not change here. That's why it's called 1 level here. So that is the ichidan verb. And lastly, we have the irregular verbs, which is like, it means like weird change actually. So this one is basically 2 only, which is suru and kuru. Suru and kuru. And there are also another one which usually would become aru. Wait. Aru also, yeah. So 3 basically. So suru, kuru, and aru. So suru means to do. Kuru means to come. And then aru means there is basically. So, and this one is called irregular because they don't really have a format when changing and when conjugating the word, except that you just have to remember actually. So that's why it's called irregular verb. They don't really have the formula. So I guess that is the basic of about the godan, the 5 level verb, ichidan, the 1 level verb, as well as the irregular verb, henkaku doshi. So this one is basically, we kinda will apply that knowledge into conjugating it into past tense. Okay. So godan can be a bit hard to remember to how to conjugate it when it's in short form and to past tense. So the formula to this is to remember there are under godan, there are few categories of hiragana that you have to remember. First, the verb that ends with u, su, and ru. U, su, and ru. For example, like if it's like utsuru. Utsuru, what ends with tu? So, for example, like tu here, there's a word called katsu, which means to win. To win, katsu, or also known as kachimasu in the mas form. Kachimasu. So when you see this kind of verb that ends with this hiragana, for example, like tsu, it ends with the su here. So the verb that ends with this hiragana, you have to change it to ta. So people might be wondering, what do you mean? So we take as an example like this one, katsu, which means to win. So if you change it to this form, basically you are making it into a past tense, but it is in short form. So katta. So this one katsu to win, and if you change it to past tense, it will become basically you replace the tsu to this one. Then it will become katta. Katta, double T. So katta, which is basically the past tense. So won. So this is how you conjugate it. So basically any verb that ends with this hiragana for the godan, any verb that ends with this hiragana, you basically replace this hiragana to ta. For example, like katsu, the tsu here, you replace to ta, basically. So far, 大丈夫ですか皆さん? Are you guys okay? Oh my.
Well, to me,
はい、先生、大丈夫。
boleh.
大丈夫、大丈夫。
大丈夫, yes.
大丈夫
大丈
です。
夫です。
And of course, again, if you do not understand, please do not hesitate at all to stop me anytime because I can explain in more details. Okay, there's the thumbs up. Teman-teman.
Teman-teman, jangan malu.
So that is for utsuru, for this one. This one is all under Godan, which is the 5 level. The next one is the mu, nu, and bu. This one is utsuru. This one is mu, nu, and bu. Okay, so this one, you basically just conjugate it and change the mu, nu, bu into da. Da, basically. This one is ta. Oh my, stunya. So, mu, the verbs that ends with the verb, with the hiragana of mu, nu, and bu, you change it to da. For example, the word manabu. Manabu. This one means to learn. To learn. So basically, if you conjugate this into a past tense but short form, you basically just replace the bu here, like this one, the bu, to nda. Basically nda. So it will become mananda, which means learned. So mananda. It can be like this, and then for example, like another verb, maybe like yomu. The verb yomu, which means to read. Yomu. So basically, if you conjugate it into a past tense short form, you just replace the mu to nda. It will become yonda. Yonda, which is read. So I read this book, for example. Yonda. So that is for mu, nu, bu. So we have utsuru, mu, nu, bu. We have some others also, which is the one that end with su. Su. So for su, basically if you conjugate it into a past tense short form, you just change the su to kita. For example, the word kakusu. Kakusu. This one means to hide. To hide. So if you change it into a past tense short form, basically you just replace the su to sta. It will become kaku sta, which means hid. So kakusta. So that is for su. And lastly is the verb that ends with ku and gu. So this one, if you conjugate it into a past tense short form, it will become ita. Wait, sebentar deh. This one is shita. This one is ku and gu. It will become ita. This one, okay. So, ku, the verbs that ends with ku and gu, it will become ita. For example, kaku. Kaku. This one means to write. Kakimasu. To write. If you change it into a past tense short form, basically you replace the ku or gu, in this case is ku, into ita. So it will become ka ita. Kaita, which is wrote. I wrote a letter, for example. 手紙を書いた. So basically this is the formula for conjugating a verb, go down verb for 5-level verb into past tense short form. So we have the first, So we have the first one, this one, and then we have the second one, and then we have the third one, and we have the fourth one. So basically, to remember for the godan is basically you use this 4 formulas. So 4 formulas. The verbs that end with utsuru or munubu or su or kugu, actually. 大丈夫ですか皆さん、質問ありますか Are you okay? Do you have any
あ
question?
りません。
大丈夫 yes.
大丈夫 yes. Oh, we
全
also
然
have
あ
a
ります。
thumbs up. 違うところだけどね、書いちゃう。So, okay. So, okay, so that is for the godan, the 5 levels. Next, we have the category of the first 1 level, ichidan. Ichidan, which means 1 level. So this one is the 1 level group for verbs. So this one level group, basically it only ends with the hiragana ru, actually. It only ends with the hiragana ru. For example, like taberu, actually. For example, like taberu, the one that I just did, taberu, which means to eat. Taberu. So this one, basically what you have to do is quite easy to remember, because how to conjugate it is basically you just change the ru to ta, actually. So if it's taberu, then if you conjugate to into past tense short form, it will become tabeta. Tabeta. Another example of ichidan group verb would be okiru. Okiru, which means to wake up. It means to wake up. Okiru. So basically, again, what you do is you just take the ru and then you change it to ta when you want to conjugate it into past tense short form. So this one, to change it, conjugating it, it will become oki ta. Okita, which means woke up. This is in past tense. So for Ichidan level group, it's quite easy because you just have to memorize this one. Yes, it's very easy for this one, Ichidan. However, for the irregular ones, you have to remember how to conjugate it. So for the irregular, irregular verb, basically we have suru and kuru. So for suru, to conjugate it into a short form past tense, it will just become ta. Ta. So for example, like 勉強する, 勉強する. So this one is suru, right? So basically you just conjugate this one to this one. So it will become 勉強した and it will become past tense short form. 勉強した. So this one is the example for this one. And that if it's kuru, basically you just say ta. Ta. So kita. So for example, you want to say like 来ます. 学校に来る. For example, going to school. 学校に来る. So this one is to study, basically. This one become study. Right? So this one is 学校に来る, which means to come to school. So if you conjugate it into past tense, so it will become 学校に. So the 来る part, you just change to 来た. 学校に来た. Basically, I came to school. 学校に来た. So that is how you conjugate for irregular verb. So irregular verb, basically, you have to memorize this. And then, for example, there's another one. Remember the irregular verb, which is aru, arimasu, which means there is. Aru. So this one, to conjugate it, you just basically change it into atta. So this one, as I mentioned again, you do not really have the formula to remember like how is it conjugated, like this one. So basically, you just have to remember actually for this part. Yeah. Yeah. So this is the formula for the verbs actually. The verbs. So far, is there any question? 大丈夫ですか?
Yeah. 大丈夫 yes.
Okay. So that is for the verb. So if you check it again here. So like the past tense short form is like this one is verb for yomu actually. The yomu, which means to read. Yomu. So if you change it into a past tense, again, as I mentioned, if it's mu, basically you just change it to nda. Nda. That's why it becomes this one. Yonda. Yonda. So, yonda. So the reason why they compare with this one is because we already learned how to conjugate it into te form back then. So basically, they are comparing with a te form for this one, which is yonde, actually, this one, a te form. So this one you don't really have to worry much because this one for the beginners, we will cover it again in the future classes. Don't worry. So that is for the verb. So next, we also have to change it, the short form of e-adjectives. So what is e-adjective? So basically, e-adjective are adjective that usually most of it ends with the hiragana e here. For example, like kawaii. So kawaii. So kawaii, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys know what it means. It means cute. Kawaii. For another example of e-adjective is like, for example, isogashi. So kimochi. Kimochi. And then isogashi. Gashi, which means busy. Or like the one that I guess most of you guys can see in the names of some of the members, sabishi. Sabishi, which means I'm sorry to expose you guys, lonely, actually. So, lonely. So, you can't spell kawaii without kawaii. So this is like the example of e-adjective. If you notice, it ends with e at the end. This one. So basically, how to conjugate it into past tense is basically you take the e here, and then you just change it to kata. So this one I shall write in this new page. So we have e adjective. So you take the e at the end. Wait. E at the end, and you just conjugate it change it into kata. For example, we have kawaii. So this one, you change it. So kawaii, it will become kawaii kata. This one you have to be careful because spelling kawaii, there are two e here. So you only take this one. So, elbow. For example, like kawaii is also a e kyoshi. So you take the e and then change it to kata. So it'll become kawakata. Yabai, also e adjective. It will become yabakata. Oh, no. You don't have to add the e for kawaii because the spelling is only this one. Kawaii. It's not like kawaii, no. So that's why you just take this one and will become kawakata. So, kawaii. Kawakata. This one is kawaii kata. So, if it's sabishi, then the shi, so you just take the e and change it to kata, it will become sabishi kata. So. Minasan, sugai. So, for e adjective, you have to remember this one. E at the end, and then you change it to kata. Oh my god, G が汚い。でも今は寂しい。あら、大変ですね。なんで ?I can't press this. ちょっと待って、危ない。ちょっと待ってね。ちょっと待って、OK。あれ、where was I? Yeah, wanted to. So that is for e adjective. Hold on. Then I add for. So there's also there's e adjective, but there's also na adjective actually. Na adjective. So to differentiate between these two is actually not easy because there are some words that ends with the e hiragana at the end, but it falls under the na adjective. For example, like kirei actually. Kirei. Kirei, which means pretty. Pretty. So even though it ends with e, this one is actually under na adjective. Na adjective. So, na adjective. So it will become, if you were to make it a short form, it will become shizuka da actually, or shizuka desu. So this one you have to be careful, and some of you guys might ask, like, how do you differentiate between e keyoshi and na keyoshi? Keyoshi it means adjective, e and na adjective. So basically, what you have to do is you have to look at the vocabulary page actually. So they would always put in categories already. They will already put in categories which falls under the e adjective and which falls under the na adjective every time we learn new vocabularies. So this one is quite important to check, or maybe you guys have a notebook and you want to go for the go to the distance, I guess. So you would just have to make a 2-column of e adjective and na adjective, and then just put whenever we learn a new vocab, you put in which category it falls under. So it'll be easy for you guys to check again in the future whenever you want to do a revision actually. So yes, this one you have to pay attention in the vocabulary part when we learn new vocabularies. The same goes for verb just now. As I mentioned, there are U verb, ru verb, and irregular verb. So U verb is the one, the 5 level, and ru verb is the 1 level. And usually whenever we learn new vocabularies, it'll be like it'll give you, it tells you which category it falls under immediately. So this one also, again, as I recommend for the E and Na, it's better to have your own notebook and then write which category it's under or in. So back to this one. So kirei, which is like na adjective. So for the na adjective, usually na adjective. So usually na adjective, it's kinda the same as noun. You have to end the na adjective with da, or you have to use the na actually. So na. So you use the na because, for example, you want to say that person is pretty. So you have to say it like this. I do in another color because this one is something extra. For na adjective, the reason why it's called na is because when you use that word, for example, the word that I introduced, kirei, and you want to say that person is pretty, so you have to say kirei na hito. You have to add the na before the noun here. Hito means person. So hito means person and kirei means pretty. So you have to add the na before the noun here. That's why it's called na adjective. Na to the ni. So, kirei na hito. So, for example, like if you want to end the sentence with pretty, kirei. For example, you want to say that flower is pretty, but you want to end the sentence with kirei, you can actually do it like this. Or maybe we use this one, okay? You want to say the same context, but you want to end the word with kirei, it will become like this. Ano hito, that person, ano hito wa kirei da. So this one is the short form. However, if it's the formal one, you want to go for the must form, the polite form, you use desu instead of da. Oh. Kirei na boku. So this is how you end the sentence with a na adjective. So instead of putting na, you have to replace the na to da here. Maybe I should add a note here. Replace na to da when ending the sentence with na adjective. So this one is an extra note.
It used to be orange. What the fuck?
So this one is just for me to explain why over here it is written as da. Because I'm using, for this part, I'm looking at this point of view. This one, da. Kirei da. You're ending the sentence with kirei da.
Aren't you embarrassed?
And I
don't know what
use
you're talking
na
about.
after saiko. Saiko na
You could
hide.
say
Saiko no hide. Saiko na hide. Saiko.
you could say that I
ちょっと
love
待って。
mugging.
サイコ
You should have got a
う
mug
ー
for your
ん
birthday. I live.
サ
I
イ
haven't had
コ
my present yet. I think we just want
サ
to
イ
let you
コ
know
サ
because
イ
you've already
コ
funded that shit.
That one I'll come back to you after the class
I was
because it
gonna
might
say,
take time
there's
for me
no
to
more.
check again. Hold on, let me write it somewhere.
Look this way. This looks so dark now. No way. Why'd you change it?
サイコ
I got changed it. Oh, the sky. Change it back. Kind of missed the old one.
サイコ Okay. No worries, no worries.
How can you even say
そうそう
this?
サイコ Okay, okay. That one I'll check again. So the na. So na, for example, like na adjective like kirei, right? So we're using the da actually here. Kirei da. Kirei da. Which means you have to end the sentence with na adjective. So this one is basically what you have to do is take this one, the da, and conjugate it into
Move outside.
datta.
It's like a whole new dimension.
Datta.
I mean,
So this one will become
you feel like
kirei
calm,
datta.
this place. It's like so dark, dark ended. How are you supposed to listen?
Or another one, there's also like, for example, like suteki. Suteki. So this one is actually na adjective. So if you end with the na adjective, it will become da. So you become suteki datta. Suteki. 素敵ではありません。素敵。You know, there's a joke like ステーキは素敵だった。
Yes, what you call it's like saying what and I can't think of something think of a word. Let me continue.
It's kind of like a dajare. So, a pun. ステーキは素敵だった。素敵だった。So basically for na adjective, we will usually end with da here. So you just change the da to datta here. That joke coming. So this one is basically how you to remember is this one. The da, you change it to datta. So that is for na adjective. And then we have also nouns. Nouns, for example, like this one is gakusei. Gakusei means student. Student. And nouns is the same as na adjective when you're ending the sentence with a noun. you have to use da. Or for the formal one would be this. Watashi wa gakusei desu or gakusei da, depending on who you're talking to, because it's the formal and the informal version of speech. So for example, since we're learning the informal one, since it's short form, by the way, is the informal speech. Informal speech where you use between friends or your juniors or someone you're really, really close to, like your family members, but do not use it to strangers or like your lecturers or someone you don't know. So because it's informal speech and it can be considered as rude actually. So that is the use of informal speech. I mean short form, which is informal speech. So since we're learning the informal speech, so we use this one. Gakusei da. Watashi wa gakusei da. I am a student. So if you want to change it into past tense, it's basically the same as non-adjective actually. Noun. For example, the one that we learned, gakusei da. A student. So the da here, you just change it to datta. So it will become, for this one, it will become gakusei datta. Gakusei datta. So now it's quite easy. For example, like you want to say, for example, another noun would be sensei. So you want to say that I am a teacher. Watashi wa sensei da. But if it's a past tense, I was a teacher. Watashi wa sensei datta. You use this one, datta. So this is how you conjugate it into past tense short form. So far, is it okay? 大丈夫ですか皆さん、質問ありますか
Hi, arimasen.
大丈夫 yes.
大丈夫。
Okay, then we have another 10 minutes. So then we have the past tense. The one that we learned is past tense affirmative, means it's kawaii, cute. But there's also the past tense negative. For example, like kawaii kunai is not cute. You know the word not in here. So for verb, it's the same as the verbs. Hold on. This one is actually might take time too. It might take more than 10 minutes. You know what? It's okay. For today, we actually will learn this one. It might be a bit like, apa tu? What you call? Some of you might think it's a bit macam like sikit. A bit little for today's class. But however, this is quite a lot for you guys to actually process because it requires a lot of memorizing actually. So I guess for today's class, we'll only cover this one actually. I do not want to put a lot more information for this one. So yes. So for you guys, if you guys want to actually practice, like to get used to like conjugating this one, you can actually just refer back to the old vocabularies, the previous chapter's vocabulary, the ru verbs and the u verb, as well as the, EKOC and na-KOC. You can just refer it back and then try to conjugate it yourself to past tense. So, and then even if we to try to form a short form dictionary form, not the past tense, also is good practice too. So yes, I guess for today's class, I have to stop until here actually. But of course, the remaining time can be used for questions. Any questions about maybe today's class or also like maybe previous class that you wanted to ask, can, just ask anything. So, psycho. So you guys think of a question while I do a bit of research for this one. So,